shutdown and will take other executive action, including declaring a national emergency. A senior administration official telling Fox News the president has cobbled together $8 billion to build a barrier at the border.
One of the big issues here is just how much can the president move around. Let's look individually at the Department of Homeland Security appropriations bill. He can go up to $750 million right there. That's not going to get you to $5 billion. But if you start to move around between the individual appropriations bills, say from defense or military construction, VA, he can get there. Here's the problem. You can't technically do that. And even if you're going to move around in one Homeland Security bill or another bill individually, you have to have sign-off by appropriators. And going over that line is why people think this is constitutional.
Fox's Chad Pergram reports there will be legal challenges. The president will speak from the Rose Garden at 10 a.m. Washington time Friday. Listen for live coverage on many of these Fox News radio stations. Trade talks between the U.S. and Chinese trade negotiators ending in Beijing with little sign of progress. President Trump has threatened new tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods if there isn't a new deal that would, among other things, protect U.S. trade secrets. But a meeting between President Trump and China's President Xi has not yet been ruled out. Venezuela's disputed President Nicolas Maduro predicting he will survive the month-old political crisis in his country and claims to be in secret talks with the Trump administration. The State Department says the only thing to discuss is Maduro's exit strategy. This is Fox News.
Great news from Exchanged, Guam's #1 online and mobile remittance service to the Philippines. Get a chance to win a trip for 2 to Manila with 3 days and 2 nights accommodations at the Belmont Hotel at Resorts World Manila. Here's how to join. Download the Exchanged app or visit exchange.me. Sign up and send money to the Philippines. You can also visit the Exchanged office inside the iConnect building in Upper Tumon. Promo ends May 2nd, 2019. Call 888-736-34 for more information. Conditions apply. Take advantage of Exchange Dollar to Remit promo. Visit exchange.me for details.
Attention homeowners, if you don't have a solar energy system on your roof from Micronesia Renewable Energy, now is the time to get one. MRE solar energy systems now come with battery storage for zero money down. This means that your home will have power even when the island power isn't available, like during power outages or during and after storms. The inconvenience of not having power for your home is a thing of the past. Don't be left in the dark. Call 632-2613 for a free consultation. MRE, the smarter choice.
The ranking Republican on the House Judiciary Committee is asking its chair to call former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein to testify before the committee with subpoenas if necessary, after McCabe told CBS there were discussions in the Bureau about trying to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump from office.
I was speaking to the man who had just run for the presidency and won the election for the presidency, and who might have done so with the aid of the government of Russia, our most formidable adversary on the world stage. And that was something that troubled me greatly.
McCabe was fired last spring for leaking to the media. He's to appear on 60 Minutes this Sunday. The American Civil Liberties Union suing the federal government on behalf of asylum seekers from Mexico, charging the administration's policy of making them wait in Mexico for their cases to be heard puts them in danger and makes it harder for them to prepare for those cases. The administration says most asylum seekers released into the United States never show up for their hearings. The man who fought off a mountain lion attack at a Colorado state park, sharing his story.
Travis Kaufman says he heard rustling in the pine needles when a mountain lion lunged at him, latching onto his wrist.
Then it just started clawing along my face and then my legs. And I was just kind of screaming the whole time.
After pinning down its hind legs, he says he used a rock to hit the lion's head, and then
I stepped on its neck with my right foot.
Until it suffocated. He got multiple stitches on his face and wrist.
It captures the imagination just because it's a modern-day man versus nature scenario, potentially.
He has started running again, but says if he goes out on the trails, he'll be bringing a buddy. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
It's important to have claims process that works for you. At Guahan Insurance Services, we make things simple and convenient. Same door you walk in to purchase your insurance is the same door you open to file your claim. We can't pretend that the car insurance claims process is fun, but we can promise a hassle-free and speedy recovery without any runarounds. For your home, auto, and business insurance, visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center on Marine Corps Drive in Tamuning. Don't forget to like us on Facebook or give us a call at 475-1162 or text 929-SAVE. That's 929-7283.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they'll continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $3,600 by calling Family Finance in Agutya at 475-4545, Upper Tumon at 647-5626, or in Dededo 633-4473. Family Finance, serving the people of Guam since 1959.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Good afternoon. It's Friday, the 15th of February, and welcome to Tall Tales. Bob Klitzkie returns in 20 days. 20 days, count them. And the countdown is on. And, do hope he's doing well. He stays in touch. Make sure I've got Second Amendment elements for you. And so we're going to start right off with one that he suggested this morning, but I didn't print it out. I'm just going to read it right off of my email. And it's entitled, New Mexico County Becomes Gun Sanctuary County. After this, we're going to have... we'll do the Zami Ikatni, and then John Gibson is digging up history. That comes up at 4:30. Of course, you're welcome to call 888-8255 if you've got something on your mind. If something strikes your fancy or, tickles your fancy here on Tall Tales, 888-8255. We'd love to hear about it. If you had a particularly good Valentine's Day that you can share, then you're certainly welcome to call and let us know about that, too. And maybe I'll tell you a little bit about mine. But New Mexico County becomes Gun Sanctuary County. And this is coming out of Bearing Arms website, and by compliments of Bob Klitzkie. Progressives didn't mean for this to happen, not by a long shot. They never meant for anyone else to embrace the idea of becoming jurisdictions where certain laws wouldn't be enforced. When they started doing that regarding immigration, they were probably convinced it was the best idea ever and it would never be used against their ideology. Meanwhile, gun rights supporters looked as these same progressives pushed for gun control and smiled. It was time that what was good for the goose was good for the gander. In New Mexico, most of the sheriffs of the state have already come out in opposition to proposed gun laws, but one county wasn't going to leave their chief law enforcement officer high and dry. A small county in eastern New Mexico declared itself a Second Amendment sanctuary county on Wednesday in protest of pending gun control legislation in the state. The Quay County Commission voted unanimously to pass the resolution, Albuquerque's KRQE-TV reported. The state's House Republicans commended the move in a statement, saying they are proud of Quay County, with its population of about 10,000 citizens, for standing up to the rights of New Mexicans. Republican lawmakers represent the minority in both the state's House and Senate. The bill is a state-level universal background check bill and, unfortunately, will probably pass in the state. That's a shame, but at least some are willing to make a stand on something like this, thankfully. However, this is becoming far more common throughout the nation, and I have to be honest, I'm concerned about it. Don't get me wrong, I think the Quay County Commission is doing the right thing. What worries me, though, is that we are going to end up creating a patchwork of different laws to such a degree that it'll be hard to continue to consider ourselves a single nation. Instead, we'll be a patchwork of city-states that dominate the landscape. It may be only a matter of time before someone tries to force someone else to enforce laws they've declared null and void within their borders. What happens then? Well, that's a topic for another time, but for now we need to be thankful that at least someone is willing to make this stand in New Mexico. If the rest of the pro-gun counties would do the same, it might send a signal to the State House that gun control isn't welcome in New Mexico after all. Of course, we're also talking about anti-gunners who think they know better than anyone else about what they need and what they don't need. It's highly unlikely they'd get the message. What would happen, though, is that the laws will only apply in the handful of liberal enclaves that control the state while leaving the rest of the people free to be free. Frankly, that's kind of a beautiful thing when you think about it. It might also be more than progressives can handle at the end of the day. It might also be more than progressives can handle at the end of the day. They're not good with people being free, after all. And that is an article by Tom Kay. I know I've read these articles by him before in the Bearing Arms website entitled New Mexico County Becomes Gun Sanctuary County. And I want to thank Bob Klitzkie for that referral of an article. I'm reminded of something, though. Maybe I shouldn't be learning my history from the old westerns, but wasn't there in these places before they became states, in Texas and in New Mexico and Arizona and Oklahoma and California, Nevada? Don't you remember that when people would ride into town, they'd say, the sheriff would come out and say, you got to check your guns in at the office. No, you can't carry a gun in this town. Wasn't that kind of a law and order? Real Joe, didn't you watch westerns when you were a kid?
Yeah, I did, and I did see a few of those where the sheriff required people to turn in their weapons.
It was kind of a way to tame the West, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was, but I think depending on where I guess whatever county they were in or whatever town they were in, depending on how bad the situation was in that area.
Well, that was they would be allowed to have a gun, and they were allowed to carry a gun, and they were expected really to have a gun if they were outside the town limits.
Yeah, yeah.
But inside the town, the law was the law, and the law took care of anyone who had a gun.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I guess the town was kind of like someone's house. If you come to someone's house, they don't want you to carry your gun in the house or something like that. So
well, it's just I know it's strange to see this, but I imagine a county that's only got 10,000 people is pretty sparsely populated, and they're used to having their guns with them.
That's true.
And so, I mean, like that guy on Fox News who happened to be named Travis Kaufman, fighting off a mountain lion, and he said he'd bring a buddy with him. Well, the buddy he should probably bring is a weapon that's quick. He's quick enough with and accurate enough with to keep him from having to wrestle
a mountain lion.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's there are some people who are really concerned about being able to defend themselves, and there are altogether too many incidents. If there were no incidents of people going nuts with guns in public places, then maybe there wouldn't be such a cry and hue about carrying guns and having guns. But really the issue here is whether the government is going to tell us you cannot have a gun. And maybe the lines really have been drawn at automatic weapons. They're not at guns generally, but this whole this isn't going away. In fact, the Supreme Court is going to be taking a look at a case, and for the first time in about 10 years. And so there's a possibility with the new composition of the Supreme Court, since they have agreed to hear this case, that the interpretation of the Second Amendment will change from what it is now, and it'll be clearer to everybody, and And so not only state laws, but even county and city laws will be so guided by a national policy. There was another article. Here we go. Here we go. Imagine here if there was somebody carrying a gun for the common defense. Here, let me pull this up. Okay, this is a Yahoo Lifestyle article from yesterday entitled, "Bomb Threat at Home Depot Turned Out to be a Man Warning Others About How Badly He Needed to Use the Restroom." Police were called to a Wichita, Kansas Home Depot after it was believed a man was making a bomb threat in the home improvement site. Sedgwick County Communications recently released the 911 audio in which the caller tells the operator that someone may have made a bomb threat, according to KWCH. Quote, "We just had a customer here made what may have been a bomb threat," the caller said. Quote, "He said, somebody told me there's a bomb in here and you better leave the building." He said it 3 times. Staff were alerted to the possible, quote, bomb threat after the person overheard the man in the store's restroom. However, authorities learned that the threat was actually a euphemism used by a man who really had to use the bathroom. Quote, "You all need to get out of here because I'm fixing to blow it up," the man allegedly said. A witness to the bomb about to be dropped in the bathroom believed it to be a joke and laughed at the man. Police were able to track the man down and clear up the misunderstanding. Surprisingly, this is not the first time such an incident has occurred. In November, one man in New Orleans was arrested after he allegedly threatened to blow up Willie's Chicken Shack, but claimed that when he said he was going to, quote, blow the bathroom up, he meant with a bowel movement. Arthur Posey, the man in question, faced 2 charges of communicating false information of planned arson. Yeah, let's go to New Orleans docket and find out when the court case is. That's of national importance.
There's a bomb threat every day in my house, sir.
Don't say it though. We got to find new euphemisms, because otherwise you're gonna bring on the SWAT, or we're gonna have to tell the SWAT team to carry baby wipes. And can you imagine if it was the Home Depot here in Guam, the FBI is right next door, and the airport police, and right next to the airport, and oh my goodness. It'd be everybody. It'd be like Alice's Restaurant. Oh, for this old folks. Anyway, hope you had a good Valentine's Day yesterday. I certainly did. My sweetie baked me a sweet potato pie with fresh ginger and real crust, hand kneaded, expertly baked crust. So, and that was just the warm-up, So, thank you for joining us today. We have a couple of items in the Zami Ikatni. I get to sing. Okay, AG and Archbishop have given their stance on gambling. Others should listen, so says the editorial board of the Guam Daily Post. And over at the PDN, they say, aid Make-A-Wish by donating airline miles. So let's take a look at the PDN first. And you can help make a positive difference in the life of a child who has a critical illness by helping out Make-A-Wish Guam and CNMI with its mission. The organization is holding an airline mileage drive on February 18th to help grant travel wishes, according to an announcement from the foundation. You can donate your Delta or United miles to the cause, and you can do it without incurring any transfer fees. Every mile that you donate will help Wish kids and their families travel to destinations around the world. The donated miles will never expire and are used to support wishes across the country, according to the nonprofit. In the United States and its territories, on average, a wish is granted every 34 minutes. Approximately 75% of all wishes involve air travel, especially for kids in our region. Nationally, Make-A-Wish estimates it needs more than 2.8 billion miles, or 50,000 round-trip tickets, to cover every travel wish each year. A wish granted can help a child feel stronger, more energetic, more willing and able to battle their critical illnesses, according to Make-A-Wish, and for many it translates into a turning point. The nonprofit reports that health professionals say the wish experience works in concert with medicine to make patients feel better, emotionally and physically. We urge residents to donate their airline miles to help out this very worthwhile cause or to give some other form of donation or assistance. And if you know a child with a critical illness between the ages of 2.5 to 18, you can refer the child to Make-A-Wish. Potential wish kids, medical professionals, parents, legal guardians, and family members with detailed knowledge of the child's medical condition can initiate a referral. How you can help. To donate airline miles to help grant travel wishes for Make-A-Wish kids on February 18th, call 649-9474 on Guam, 670-483-9474 on Saipan, or email info@guam.wish.org. Make-A-Wish Guam and CNOI welcomes all donations, a one-time gift of cash, monthly donations, in-kind contributions of items, products or services, even the creation of matching gift programs at your workplace. And that is the editorial today from the Pacific Daily News. Aid Make-A-Wish by donating airline miles. Ray Gibson's doing this on the morning of the 18th during his show, and you can donate to Make-A-Wish right here on this radio station by calling in or contacting us online on the Facebook or on the other means that we have set up here at this station, and you can donate through the Ray Gibson Show on the morning of February 18th. And you've been hearing those announcements running for the last couple of weeks, so you should be ready. Thank you for supporting Make-A-Wish in its efforts to make a difference in the life of a child right here in our community. The Guam Daily Post editorial is AG, Archbishop have given their stance on gambling. Others should listen. I know sometimes these headlines distract me, but I guess I'm just a stickler for grammar or clarity in meaning. In recent days, our community has heard the loud voices of those who promote the re-legalization of the past practice of betting money at the annual Liberation Day Carnival. We've heard from among the most vocal that somehow this will make the carnival more lively and financially viable. Senator Talina Nelson, who had recently introduced legislation that would have removed the mayor's role from the carnival activities, has backed down in a way. She has withdrawn the measure, leaving the mayors as the authority and oversight of the Guam Island Fair Committee, including all Liberation Day festivities, although she still doesn't support gambling at the carnival. While these recent developments have been a disappointment to many island residents who don't agree with the gambling activities openly practiced at various forms on Guam, there are still community leaders who haven't wavered in their stance. Archbishop Michael Burns issued a statement Monday that, in addition to its support of the 2017 elimination of casino gambling at the Liberation Day Carnival, the Archdiocese of Agana strongly urges local authorities and the community in general to make an honest examination of other forms of highly addictive gambling locally and their propensity to harm our people. Quote, eliminating casino gambling from last year's Liberation Carnival activities was a step in the right direction for a community which places great worth in things such as faith, family, and culture, Burns stated. Quote, however, more measures are needed to reverse a growing culture of recklessness and obsession in our island. Gambling enterprises that entice patrons to spend their money into the late evening and early morning hours are especially harmful, the Archbishop said. Quote, Imagine the continuous loss of money that would otherwise be used to pay groceries, utilities, and other basic goods for individuals and families, Burns stated. Burns made special mention of Attorney General Levin Camacho, who, the Archbishop said, has made, quote, efforts declaring gambling machines illegal on Guam and lament that they have continued to exist for many years. And this is a quote from Levin Camacho. The position of the Office of the Attorney General has not changed in the decade-long question of whether gaming devices are legal or not. The office firmly maintains that gambling devices cannot and should not be licensed on Guam. We will continue to take whatever action is necessary to see that the law is upheld and gambling devices are not licensed, Camacho said recently. The Supreme Court of Guam is expected to decide soon whether to allow the continued operation of gambling machines or to banish them from the island completely. Burns said, quote, we pray for wisdom and good judgment to fill the justices. Given that certain elected officials' actions have recently become soft on, if not supportive of, gambling, the community may have to look to other public figures to take a stand against this source of corrosion in homes and on our island. Quote, highly addictive elements or pastimes in our community that endanger the livelihood of individuals and families do not only affect the persons directly gambling, they harm the entire community, Burns stated. Archbishop Burns and Attorney General Camacho, thank you for speaking up. We hope others in power will hear you and listen. And that is the editorial today from the Guam Daily Post. AG, Archbishop, have given their stance on gambling. Others should listen. And there was a PDN article in the day on Wednesday, Thursday, yesterday. The article covered well in the PDN, covered the same topic. I didn't bring it up yesterday, but I had it ready. Now let's kind of go through this editorial because it's just. Are they misspeaking on? Yes, in one part they're misspeaking, and in other parts they're kind of. I don't know. It's kind of odd. But let's take a look at this. And if you have an opinion about this, by all means, 888-8255 is our telephone number here, and we would love to hear from you. But right now, I'm going to just kind of. It says that Senator Talina Nelson has backed down in a way. She has withdrawn the measure, leaving the mayors as the authority and oversight of the Guam Island Fair Committee, including all Liberation Day activities. Just because a senator puts in a bill doesn't mean that it's already a done deal. And just because Senator Nelson withdrew the bill does not restore powers that somebody already has under existing law. The mayors have the responsibility, it's delegated to them to run the Guam Island Fair, not the Micronesian Island Fair, but the Guam Island Fair and the Liberation Day Carnival and the Liberation Day Parade. But they are not allowed they're not authorized to allow gambling at the carnival under a law that was passed by the 34th Guam legislature and is in effect now. And that was sponsored by Senator Nelson. But because she withdrew her bill doesn't mean that it sort of restored powers to the mayors. The mayors are taking the position that the law should be overturned by the legislature, that the policy should be that gambling is allowed, as long as the government is going to also let them issue regulations. They were supposed to have done that anyway, and they didn't do it before when they were authorized to allow the gambling to take place. They didn't have any procedures in place. If they did, we'd know how well or not that all worked out. All we know is that they liked the money. But when it's an official activity, it should be auditable, it should be visible, transparent. And we'll continue this. But in the meantime, be thinking about it. And if you have any comments to share with us, go to our Facebook Live page, or you can give us a call here at 888-8255. But right now, it is time for John Gibson because he's digging up history.
John Gibson, digging up history. He was a health nut. He founded a sanitarium to promote healthy living, and one of the foods he invented you can still find on the grocery shelves. That after this. Let's talk heirloom sheets and towels from Redland Cotton in Alabama. First, the family farm, growing the finest cotton in the world. The spinning, the looming, every step made in America, right down to the cutting and sewing. Sheets designed from a long-lost 1920s weave. The softest, most comfortable, longest-lasting sheets you've ever slept on. The Redland family dedicated to America and linens you'll treasure. Check out redlandcotton.com for America's linen. Redlandcotton.com. It was the 1890s, and the medical doctor thought American cooking was killing Americans. He thought the key to healthy living was the digestive tract. He said indigestion caused more deaths than all other causes combined. But he founded a sanitarium called the Sand. He served low-calorie meals, but he worried what his followers ate when they left the Sand and went home. So he invented a special low-calorie, ready-to-eat breakfast that he sold by mail order. The doctor's breakfast cereal is still on the shelves today. It was new back then, toasted cornflakes. And the doctor's name, Dr. John Kellogg. I'm John Gibson, digging up history.
There's a reason every day a Guam homeowner is getting a solar system installed by Micronesia Renewable Energy. It's because MRE is the most trusted name in solar. With more solar energy solutions than any other solar company on island, homeowners have a choice to go solar for zero money down or take the path to ownership. Whichever way, it keeps our skies blue and your pockets green. And with the most experienced solar technicians and an energy production guarantee, there are no worries. Call 632-2613 for a free consultation. MRE, the smarter choice.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
And welcome back to Tall Tales for Friday afternoon on the Afterglow show, of Valentine's Afterglow show here on The Point. And before the break, we were talking about the Guam Daily Post editorial today about the Attorney General and Archbishop have given their stance on gambling and others should listen. And as I was going through this, we got a call on this. So let's go to line one and see what's shaking out here. Line one, you're on the air.
Oh, howdy.
Hi, welcome to Tall Tales.
You were also speaking about the mayors.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the mayor's council. Now, the mayor's council, I think, should be in charge of everything to do with strawberries on Guam.
Strawberries? Yeah, they did go to that festival, didn't they?
$50,000 to go to the Strawberry Festival in the Philippines. That's what I read in the newspaper.
Yeah, I remember that. That was quite a shocker, you know, that we didn't know that strawberries were quite so important that they needed to spend money on not on vehicles to pick up junk cars or Cusco, but they needed to
festivals in the Philippines. Therefore, it's obvious the Guam mayors should be in charge of every aspect of strawberries on Guam.
Oh, I don't know. I think Payless and Costulus would really object because then they wouldn't be able to bring any more in. It'd be up to the mayors to sell strawberries.
Well, and the other point is gambling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these mayors, these Guamanian mayors, are obviously not very good at gambling. Because they gambled, no one would find out about their junket to the Philippines. They gambled, no one would find out, but people found out, and people don't forget.
You're right. You're right, but they're not that good of gamblers, are they? They lose just like other gamblers.
They lost that one.
Well, most gamblers do. They gambled. They gambled that it wouldn't, that they would be able to keep their office, even though they were off on a junket where $60,000 was spent for absolutely zero return to the people of Guam. But that money was raised here, and they think that
it wasn't spent here. It was raised here, and it was spent somewhere else.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. And it was spent on an activity that had absolutely nothing to do with their official duties. Had nothing to do with their official duties, except that they have a sister relationship with some entity in the Philippines, and they were invited. But somehow they were able to find and justify the expenditure of public money, not their money. They get paid well. They could just buy a ticket and go on leave and go to a strawberry festival. Nobody would mind. Nobody would care. But they charged it to the mayor's council as official travel. And I think the mayor
They gambled and lost.
Well, they haven't lost yet.
They gambled, no one would find out about it.
Oh, that's kind of a foolish gamble since it's public funds. And also, maybe it's not over yet, because I believe the mayor of Rhoda is up on federal charges on misusing public funds, and so for coming to Guam and supposed to be attending the
that one,
liberation.
Yeah.
Well, there's
no corruption. No corruption here. Move along, folks. Nothing to see.
Nothing to see here.
No corruption. No.
Well,
no corruption.
Thank you for your perspective this afternoon.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Good to have you with us. Bye-bye. Yeah. We all like the mayor that we voted for, and we appreciate whichever mayor is in for what they do. Like volunteers. You appreciate a volunteer when they show up. And if they don't show up, well, what are you going to do? You can't hold it against them. So a public official who comes in and does their job, yes, you appreciate them. But when they don't show up for their job, well, what can you do? But as long as they're not spending public money doing it, because that's a crime. They can go off, they can be elected, and they can draw their paycheck and not do boo. They don't have to even bother showing up for work because they're elected. And many show up in physically, you see them there, but there isn't much there. And so the editorial, going back to the editorial, it's kind of odd to have the Post trying to get, are they trying to get the officials to listen to the Attorney General, who's a lawyer, by the way? He's just going to argue a position, and the only place he can really do his arguing is in court. And that's what he's supposed to do. That is what we pay him to do. The Archbishop, we don't pay him. He's a moral authority, and it is on the moral questions. It's not necessarily the case that public officials should listen to the Archbishop in the performance of their official duties. The mayors don't have to. The senators don't have to. The governor doesn't have to. They are not obligated to the people to listen to the Archbishop. But we residents, not as voters or as citizens, but as residents of the island and as Catholics, we are supposed to be paying attention to what the Archbishop is saying on an area that we have in common as Catholics and the Archbishop. Episcopalians, Buddhists, agnostics, atheists, Baptists, don't worry about it. It's okay. It's none of your concern. Only Catholics. Because that's the way that if you're a Catholic, then that's your game. And the Archbishop, when he says something, you should be paying attention. And then if that comes up in the way that you vote, that's you. You can vote any way you want. You can have any opinion you want. And you can express it freely because that's your right. And the government's not involved. It's just really a strange editorial to not kind of point this out. Although I would much rather the Guam Daily Post have taken the Archbishop's statement and published it in total and let him speak for himself to his people. Because it has, as I said, all the other faiths, nothing to see here. Move on, please. This is our thing to do. It is not a public, it's not of general public interest. It is a matter of a bishop and his flock. And it's not really made clear here. Of course, yeah, Lieven Camacho is going to argue. But is he arguing against, he's going to go to court. And the courts, he's got to be a good lawyer to win the argument in court. And so, yes, the Post can thank the Archbishop and the Attorney General for speaking up, but it's just such an odd, it's so odd to have this editorial. I'm just, I like it, I can agree with it, but it's not really helping a whole lot. And the advertorial that the Pacific Daily News put in is good because you know, that profit-making rag, the Pacific Daily News, is it can spend its business capital on and space and time on supporting nonprofits in the community, and I'm happy that they do. And there are a number of nonprofits that would love to have this kind of exposure for the good work that they do. That it happens to be time to that Make-A-Wish is making a push is good that the PDN does this, and so I commend them for this. But I'm going to refrain from issuing a star to either one of these here on this show. Here on this show. Maybe call me stingy. Call me stingy, but and you can call up and tell me so on the air. I don't mind. I just I am just too passionate about things getting done in this community, and I don't think there's any time to waste. And I think that the heat has to be on this administration, not after a year and things haven't gotten done, or we kind of drift into not doing anything and find that out. I don't think we ought to wait a year to put pressure on this administration for declaring a position and setting direction. This is critical time. Even the legislature, I think they should stand and take a position and not wait until campaign time to take a position, and then in the meantime go ahead and let the policies that have been put on the books, let them be questioned, let them drift, let's see how much the interest out in the community, special interest groups are willing to contribute to re-election campaigns. I don't think we should be waiting for that. I think our leaders should be taking a position, and that is what the Archbishop is doing. That's what I thought Talina Nelson was doing before she withdrew her bill. She didn't have to, but why did she withdraw her bill and allow it to be seen that she was reversing herself on the issue? Why did she do that? She already convinced the 34th Guam legislature to pass her bill which is the current law, that the mayors may not authorize license gambling activities at the fair or carnival. Taking a look at the folks online, Facebook Live. I've got Joe Cruz saying, is the church really a moral authority? Telling people not to gamble when you're in bankruptcy? That's a good point. I think they're in bankruptcy because otherwise they would basically liquidate all of their assets and there wouldn't be a church to go to. They have to be in bankruptcy if they want to save the actual churches and use the assets that are in excess of the churches proper and the schools proper to satisfy civil claims against it to some degree. And that's what the bankruptcy is for. But thank you, Joe, for your comment. Tito Guay says, is there proper records that verify how much a casino operator made every day all year long for a number of years? Who was the names of the casino operation? Well, that's also something that perhaps the Department of Revenue and Taxation or the mayors should be asked about. And maybe the people supposed to be doing the asking are the senators, and especially the chair of the committee that has oversight on the mayors. Because if we had some of these questions answered, we might not be so anti. But one of the reasons that we have been anti since 2017 is because the mayors would not answer these questions, could not answer these questions. Of course, they could answer them because they know who was the operator, but they didn't want to say. And they should have known how much money was coming in, but they didn't bother to make it their business as long as they got paid some of it. And as long as they got to spend it like non-appropriated funds. It didn't go into the general fund, or it didn't go into a fund that was reported to the government and then the government would authorize them to use it. No, it just went into you can spend it on whatever fund. So thank you. Tito Guay continues, is there a case study on how Mariana's benefited from casino operations all these years for their community, education, etc.? Case study? I don't think there's any. Maybe up at UOG. Maybe there's a grad student who did some research on this and did some digging around, asking the right questions as an academic. But I don't think there's any government agency. Maybe the Attorney General had done some for some purposes. Maybe the Office of Public Accountability has some files where it has been doing research as for background, but then they're limited to what they can issue in a report. They have to actually come to some conclusion. And these are financial audits that are being done, not management audits, like the management of GMH or the management of the Mayor's Council as regards, gambling. Joe Cruz says exactly, in bankruptcy because of a moral issue or lack there of morality. The church is having a rough time of it, isn't it? By not taking its priest as soon as they know that the priests are not acting priestly, and not living up to civil expectations that you charge people for wrongdoing, but instead practicing what they preach, which is forgiveness with confession, the sacrament of reconciliation. So, they have this internal creed, code, practice, of and sacrament of reconciliation. So the public is saying, no, that's not good enough. And as a civil matter and as a criminal matter, the public is right. But the church has been following its own procedures, and over time this has not stood up. And yes, the church is grappling with this. But if you are familiar, and you should be, unless you're Baptist, if you're familiar with the sacrament of reconciliation, then you can understand why the church is having such a tough time with squaring its procedures with those of civil and criminal authority. But thank you, Joe, for your comments on Facebook Live. It's time to take a break here, and when we come back, we'll have more Tall Tales.
When your family needs medical care, how often do you find the need to visit multiple clinics? When a child has a serious ailment, do you find yourself meeting a medical provider only to learn you must go somewhere else for testing? At the FHP Health Center, you can find multiple specialties and testing services under one roof. And if your family needs urgent care, FHP is there for you with convenient weekday, evening, and weekend hours. Voted the island's best clinic in Pika's Best 2 years in a row. FHP, our island, your clinic. Learn more at fhpguam.com.
Here at Make-A-Wish, our Wish kids wish for all kinds of things. A lot of them involve traveling to faraway places. On Monday, February 18th from 6 until 10, we'll be holding an airlines mileage drive with me, Ray Gibson, on 93.3 The Point, to help us grant these travel wishes. So if you've got spare airline miles, you can donate them without any transfer fees. Your donation will go a long way, and so will our Wish kids.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Hey, I just checked the website at the legislature, and they finally posted Bill number 46-35. It's been in the news for 2 days, and only at 4:25 did they post the bill. My goodness. It was filed on the 13th at 12:34 in the afternoon. But I've been checking this website every 4 hours or so during the business day, and for it not to be there, it wasn't there at 1:25 this afternoon. Well, now we know. Bill 46-35, so now we can go with Bill Watch. But before we go further into the show, I want to thank you for tuning in this afternoon on our Facebook Live page. And also, I would thank you personally if you call in 888-8255 and tell me I'm a horses you know what, or that I am, whatever you have to say. Because certainly I would like to discuss this stuff with you. Here's a little factoid while I'm waiting for you to call. In PDN today, I saw this national news, U.S. budget deficit running 41.8% above last year. There's only 2 paragraphs here. The federal budget deficit in December totaled $13.5 billion, helping to push the deficit for the first 3 months of this budget year up 41.8% from the same period the previous year. The Treasury Department says that the budget deficit from October through December totals $318.9 billion, up from a deficit of $225 billion from the same 3 months of the previous year. So far this budget year, tax revenue is up a tiny 0.2%, reflecting the impacts of the tax cuts passed in 2017. Spending is up 9.6%. And that is what I saw from national news. National news, important to us, especially when we start getting into what's the let's see, I had this article from the Pacific Island Times. Bruce Lloyd and Marvick Kagarangan wrote an article on the economy called Taxes, Debts, and an Economy in Slow Motion. Every Guam citizen is in debt. This is because of the obligations of our local government. $15,802. Guam's long-term debt has reached $2.7 billion. And how much taxes do we pay a year on average for every man, woman, and child on Guam? $4,368. Now, there are, if you stop and think of how many people you know who earn enough money to pay, if they're just husband and wife and no kids, that they earn enough to pay more than $8,700 a year in taxes. Of course, you know who they are. You know them, and you would probably be right to suspect that it's maybe 60% of the government of Guam workers. What percentage of private sector workers would you say would fit into that category? Or for a family of four to pay somewhere around $17,000 or $18,000. A family of four, $17,000 a year. But if that's the average, then there are people who pay enough above that in taxes to make up for all the other people who do not pay that amount in taxes. And of course, the people who don't pay that in taxes directly, income taxes, or business privilege taxes, or real estate taxes, or they do pay it in gross receipts taxes, in everything that they buy. And they pay against that $4,000, $4,368 per year amount per person. They pay against it in liquid fuels taxes. They pay it in 4% gross receipts taxes. They are not paying the taxes against hotel occupancy. They are not paying the taxes. Those taxes are being paid by our visitors and by businesses as a contribution to the community, so that we can have roads, fire service, fire protection, police protection. And so it's interesting when you start looking at the national debt is going up, and at some point we're going to start talking about how we stack up and compare to the other unincorporated territory, Puerto Rico, and what was their per capita debt before they were basically taken over, before their government was put in receivership by the United States Congress, because of its level of debt and because of its inability to provide services and to pay its obligations. The federal government will not pay the obligations of the territorial governments if the territorial governments overspend. They will not. They've already drawn that line. They will take the local government's powers away to spend their own tax money on whatever locally to satisfy the debts to financial creditors first. And that was the PROMESA law that Congress passed that put a board of federal oversight over the government of Puerto Rico. It's just about 5 o'clock, and it's time for our halftime show here, Fox News coming up, and then our marching bands and confetti and the halftime entertainment. So we will come back after the 5 o'clock news and our halftime show with more Tall Tales here on The Point.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 1350 AM, 93.3 FM, and 104.3 HD3.
A signature away from averting another shutdown. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Congress has passed and the president is expected to sign the compromise spending bill.
The bill fully funding government to the fiscal year and providing a border security compromise won big bipartisan votes in the Senate and the House.
So for all of my colleagues, the president will sign the bill.
That assurance from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was key to an 83-16 vote in the Senate. Hours later, the House followed suit with 300 members voting yes.
We will keep government open, and that's very important for the American people.
But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Democrats are considering a response to a national emergency the president is declaring to secure more border funding, executive action facing criticism from many Republicans as well.
Fox's Jared Halpern in Washington. The president will speak from the Rose Garden in the morning on national security and the humanitarian crisis at the border. A senior administration source tells Fox News the president will use an emergency declaration to justify reallocating $8 billion for construction of the wall. Legal challenges are expected to follow quickly. And there's a challenge to the administration's order to keep asylum seekers in Mexico while they await immigration hearings. The American Civil Liberties Union charging that violates federal law and puts the asylum seekers at risk. They call it an atmospheric river, a storm system still pummeling parts of California. The National Weather Service reports staggering amounts of rainfall, more than 9 inches in less than 2 days near San Bernardino, California. Mudslides reported north of San Francisco. At least 2 Californians have died from the effects of the storm. Wall Street Thursday, the Dow dropping 103 points. NASDAQ gained 6. The S&P 500 was down 7. Dow futures, though, were down more than 100 points. This is Fox News.
Hi, this is Ray Gibson from The Morning Show on 93.3 The Point. And we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary this February. The Point is your news talk headquarters with top news, sports, weather, and traffic, and of course, always a little extra. We want to thank our listeners, fans, and followers for keeping us on our toes and joining us on this journey. The Ray Gibson Show Anniversary Celebration is brought to you by Take Care, our island, your health plan.
Laddie Stone Entertainment and the stations of Choice Broadcasting invite you to a sexy sleepwear soiree. Join us on Friday, February 15th at Sidelines Bar and Grill.
Doors open at 7 and $15 gets you your first drink.
Come dressed in your PJs or your lingerie and party with the 2019 Miss and Mrs. Kirby contestants.
There's going to be a lingerie fashion show by Frisky Feline and cash prizes for the cutest, the sexiest, and the best couple.
It's the Miss and Mrs. Kirby Pageant Sexy Sleepwear Soiree with Pipple Empire,
Local promos,
One Punch Media,
Figure 8,
Sidelines Bar and Grill,
The Hive,
Island Lux,
and Frisky Feline.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the ongoing talks with North Korea are a good start.
There's still a lot of work to do, and we hope, I guess it's only 2 weeks off now, we hope when the two leaders get together again they can make substantial progress along that objective, which I think the entire world shares.
That's Secretary Pompeo on Fox's special report with Brett Baer says the president is set to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Hanoi at the end of this month. Coming soon, apparently, direct flights between the U.S. and Vietnam. The Federal Aviation Administration on Thursday declaring that Vietnam now complies with international aviation safety standards. 2 Vietnamese airlines are making plans for nonstop flights. Expecting a joint statement from Beijing as U.S. and Chinese trade negotiators conclude their latest talks aimed at de-escalating a pending tariff war. Not clear yet if any progress was actually made. What could be the largest fine ever imposed on a tech company reportedly being negotiated between the Federal Trade Commission and Facebook. The Washington Post says it could be a $1 billion fine for the violation of a 2011 agreement with the FTC to protect user privacy. Amazon Prime is beginning to stream a new documentary, which some might call cutting edge.
Lorena, the 4-part docuseries from Jordan Peele and Amazon Studios, looks to dive deep into the 1993 case that shocked the country when the then 24-year-old Lorena Bobbitt cut off the penis of her sleeping husband, John Wayne Bobbitt, and fled the scene with a severed penis and then flung it out the car window into a small-town Manassas, Virginia field. Police recovered the missing member, and Bobbitt eventually underwent successful reattachment surgery. This was a true tale that was stranger than fiction. But what really drove her to the crime?
The defense says the years of abuse put her over the edge.
She was way too scared. John Wayne also participates in the series with more than 40 other witnesses, attorneys, jurors, and experts.
Fox's Michelle Polino. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Here at Make-A-Wish, our Wish kids wish for all kinds of things. A lot of them involve traveling to faraway places. On Monday, February 18th from 6 until 10, we'll be holding an airlines mileage drive with me, Ray Gibson, on 93.3 The Point, to help us grant these travel wishes. So if you've got spare airline miles, you can donate them without any transfer fees. Your donation will go a long way, and so will our Wish kids.
When your family needs medical care, how often do you find the need to visit multiple clinics? When a child has a serious ailment, do you find yourself meeting a medical provider only to learn you must go somewhere else for testing? At the FHP Health Center, you can find multiple specialties and testing services under one roof. And if your family needs urgent care, FHP is there for you with convenient weekday, evening, and weekend hours. Voted the island's best clinic and Pika's best 2 years in a row. FHP, our island, your clinic. Learn more at fhpguam.com.
Stirring music for our halftime show. Thank you very much, Real Joe, for conducting the orchestra there. And here we are back with Tall Tales for a Friday afternoon. And you're free. You got for those of you who are celebrating President's Day, you got a 3-day weekend ahead of you, and you'll be paid because the President says he's going to sign the bill. And we are reminded that what Elena Bobbitt threw out the window was a member, like the members of Congress, the members of, depending on, and that it was reattached successfully. It's like a re-election. But, there's some of these things have continue on with a life of their own, don't they? Because they resonate in our, not only as popular lore, but as cautionary tales. There are more weapons than automatic rifles around, and they can be used for, the reasons that we usually attach to stand your ground and castle doctrine. It doesn't have to only be a gun. But I'm going to take a look at something from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary of Quotations to get this hour started. And it is a section on liberals and conservatives. Ambrose Bierce in The Devil's Dictionary defined conservative as a statesman who is enamored of existing evils, as distinguished from the liberal who wishes to replace them with others. Let's see what else we've got here. Oh, that one's on life. Let's see. Franklin Roosevelt said, "A radical is a man with both feet firmly planted in the air. A conservative is a man with two perfectly good legs who, however, has never learned to walk forward. A liberal is a man who uses his legs and his hands at the command of his head. In a radio address in 1939, Franklin D. Roosevelt, the President of the United States, said that. You know, it's not like he said that the wall was on its way. You know, Carter Glass, quoted in the New York Times, said a liberal is a man who is willing to spend somebody else's money. I know that one's been making the rounds for quite some years now. So, and maybe another time I'll bring you some sayings about life out of the Merriam-Webster Dictionary of Quotations. If you've got something on your mind, by all means, give me a call here at 888-8255. There we go. 888-8255. Or you can post your comment on Facebook Live, and I'll be glad to share it with the listening public. Now, before the break, we were talking about national debt. But one thing I've really wanted to talk about is this bill number 46. So let's take a bill watch. Yesterday in the PDN, there was a topic about higher fines of $10,000 for illegal vacation rental rewards, for illegal vacation rentals, reward for people reporting them. And taking a look through here at Bill 46 now that it's available to me, and I'm happy to see this bill finally popping out. And in the legislative findings and intent section, it says it talks about how residents of Guam need to participate in this process to provide the Department of Revenue and Taxation the additional eyes and ears from a neighborhood perspective. By creating a reward system, DRT would attain whistleblowers who could lead the department to either penalize, cease, or enforce visitor lodging laws. The legislation is not seeking trespassers endangering themselves, but to attain confidential informants. And so it says it is also important to provide DRT with additional financing to effectively enforce the laws associated with bed and breakfasts and short-term vacation rentals. Thus, the legislation intends on allowing the department to retain 10% of the excise taxes collected. These are monies that could increase manpower or purchase necessary equipment or software to better manage the enforcement. To me, I don't know what this seems like to you, but to hang a monetary reward out there for people to turn in their neighbors, it might obligate them, if they were to be the witnesses, if they were the ones to gather the information and bring it forward, I would think that the Attorney General would probably want to issue some advice on what kind of testimony would be required of that witness in order to make a case stick. And so suppose the person, like a whistleblower, but we're not talking about a whistleblower within an agency. That's how the term really is supposed to be used. But we're talking about a confidential informant about illegal activity, tax evasion. So I see across the street from my condo building, there's another condo building, and every couple of days I see different people with suitcases coming in and out, and they kind of look like tourists. And so I go and I take a look. I just kind of stand there and I watch to see which unit. And then I go, I go and find, I do the research at land management to find out who owns that unit. Or I go to the management company that manages that condo, common the horizontal regime, and I make a discrete inquiry about whether that unit, who rents that unit, or leases it from the owner. I mean, how much information is needed just to say, oh, I see tourists walking in and out of there? But the heavy lifting has to be done by people who are competent to build a legal case of tax evasion. And how most laws work. Most laws don't work by having confidential informants. I know they have confidential informants in drug cases where you need to have people inside as agents of the government to turn evidence on their cousin or their auntie or their common law or their the father of the girlfriend, and they trade jail time. They use people who already are facing sentencing, like Paul Manafort, right? They need these people to turn evidence. But everyday people, neighbors, to initiate investigations. Has our government completely broken down? Is there an ineptitude? Has ineptitude at the Department of Revenue and Taxation come to the point where Senator James Nelson is going to throw up his hands and say, we need to have people, we need to offer financial incentives to the agency to get them to do their work, and we need to offer financial incentives to neighbors to become informants? Thank you for calling Tall Tales on line 1. You are on the air.
On the air. Yes.
Oh, your radio's up. You got to turn your radio down, or we're going to get that perpetual echo there. Yeah. Hi, welcome back.
Yeah. But what I have seen right now, there seems to be some kind of conflict between the Filipinos and the Koreans.
And what conflict do you see?
Well, when was the last time you walked down Hotel Road?
Oh, I was driving through there just a couple of days ago on the way back from doing the show.
Driving. I said, when was the last time you walked down Hotel Road?
Well, I've been trying to do that for quite some time, but no, I haven't walked it. I'd like to, because I take my wife and we go for a walk. We go have some sushi, and we walk from Bank of Guam all the way up to Picas, and turn around and come back down. But it hasn't been for a while, but we like doing that.
But anyway, if you do that, whenever you have time,
yeah, well,
you will see a lot of pregnant Korean women.
Pregnant?
Yeah, full of anchor babies. And if you walk past Pica all the way to Lotte Hotel.
Okay.
You'll see a lot of Koreans.
Well, I guess there's two hotels down there. There's Nico, and there's the Lotte Hotel, right? And that's a Korean hotel, so of course you're going to see Koreans over there. Korean managed now.
Yeah. But
so what's the conflict that you see?
Used to be when you walked up Hotel Road, the only taxis you would see were owned by Filipinos, Wave and Nico. Now you see a lot of other ones. So the Koreans are bringing tourists and money and da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, it's not my business. I'm not Korean. I'm not Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
But there is some kind of
investment
competition.
Well, of course, there's competition. This is we opened up our industry to competition and investment, and we want foreign investment. We don't want the domestic investment.
What is our industry?
What is our industry? Well, it's not really our industry. It's simply a setting. Well, it's a setting. It's an economic sector. It's not something that we own. It's part of our economy. It's not part of our we don't own stock in it. It is something that other people own stock in, and we depend on it for jobs and whatnot.
Stockholders.
Who are the other stockholders? Whoever invested in it. Whoever invested in land, and whoever invested in...
Just across the road from where I live, right between, if you look at Lotte Hotel, just to the left, $14 million it was bought by Chinese people. That was in the newspaper, maybe a year or two ago.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes my memory doesn't work as well as I would wish it. And anyway, the point is, again, corruption.
The point is corruption?
Yeah. Who has the most money?
Who has the most money? It might be Ken Corporation. Maybe it's all borrowed money. Maybe they're willing to pay banks a premium on that money in order to
and that
amass.
requires trust.
It requires what?
Trust.
Trust, yes.
Trust is a form of collateral.
Yes.
Trust and collateral. And that's why
well, you got trust as collateral. You also have collateral of previous holdings, or you have an underwriter. You have a backer.
U.S. bonds.
No, or Korean industrial money, or Japanese industrial money. That's backing the
people have kind of moved out as far as the tourism trade goes.
Well, there has been a lot of reinvestment in the Japanese economy, and not so much in foreign assets that were appreciating higher than their own domestic areas. There was a while ago.
Who are the majority stockholders in the Hilton and Japan?
Well,
they just got out of it.
Those properties...
Because the tourists kept getting raped and robbed. Do you wonder why they don't come here?
Well, there's been...
Even though the old hermit guy, what's his name?
Who? I don't recall.
The hermit Japanese soldier?
Oh, Yokoi.
Yeah. Even though they come here for the history and for that, but then they come here and they get raped and robbed, run down with cars. Journalists, Japanese journalists, walking down Hotel Road. Two people, okay, let's just call them people. Jumped out of the car, grabbed his bag, grabbed his camera, and sped off up Hotel Road towards Digido. Fact.
Yeah.
So you wonder why? Okay, they own the hotels. Maybe they developed the tourism industry. Maybe they did this, maybe they did that. But Japanese people are not stupid.
No, they're not.
Korean people are not stupid either.
No.
And the reason why you see so many tourists right now is just after the New Year. I say the Lunar New Year, not the Chinese New Year, not the Asian New Year, the Lunar New Year.
Right.
That's why you see so many. Okay, they get a break. They want to. It's very, very cold.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want to come, they bring their children, da-da-da. And then what happens? They get robbed.
Yeah, that's right. And
in the island paradise.
That's right. That's
They
our
get robbed.
that's a feature in our tourism, in the family friendly tourist market that we've developed here over the years. And that's actually one of the reasons why even the cannabis promoters of decriminalization of or legalization of cannabis, they're saying it doesn't matter, what kind of an image are we building here? It hasn't been safeguarded. We're not show us that this is family friendly with the kind of criminality that's visited upon our visitors.
Even on Hotel Road. I don't have a photographic memory or a computer in front of me, but if you go back and see, Two Lovers Point.
Mm-hmm.
The tourists went up there, somebody come out with a gun and robbed them. One of our beloved fellow Guamanians, to quote Eddie Calvo, one of our beloved fellow Guamanians robbed a tourist with a gun. And because he needed ice, which is no excuse at all. And then Judge Sokola let him go, and he robbed another tourist. I don't know anything about this. I just read the newspapers.
We all do.
But really, something is wrong.
Well, it is wrong. There's something wrong with our community that is keeping.
I didn't say it.
I'm saying it.
Please repeat.
Something's wrong with our community.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we need to clean it up, not for the tourists. We need to clean it up for ourselves.
I agree as well.
And I think people come here because of what we have. Guahan, we have. But not when we have, it takes more money, it takes more investment, it takes to spend more on incentives when you got to give people a discount or a subsidy, a government subsidy to overcome the arguments not to come to Guam.
And the bottom, it's only because it's allowed to be corrupt from the top. As you said, something is wrong with our community. You know how to tell a politician? They use the word community again and again and again.
Well, I don't hide my pedigree. I'm not hiding my pedigree. But the community is supposed to be the concern. Because if we can take care of our community, if we can address the problems in our community.
Society.
Society?
Yeah, it's a synonym for community.
Yeah. The reason I like using community, just like the politicians do, is because we only really have a handle on those things that we ourselves collect taxes in order to accomplish, in order to spend on things like police and fire and promotions and roads and street lights and drug courts.
Taxes, if you're collecting taxes on the roads, why don't you just when you write up the request for proposal, say we need some speed bumps.
No, we can.
That's Marine Corps Drive.
Well, thank you very much for the call. We're gonna take a break here, okay, Jimmy, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks for the call. And it's time to take a break here. It's time for our 7th inning stretch. It's 5:30, and thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon to Tall Tales. We'll be right back after this.
It's important to have claims process that works for you. At Guahan Insurance Services, we make things simple and convenient. Same door you walk in to purchase your insurance is the same door you open to file your claim. We can't pretend that the car insurance claims process is fun, but we can promise a hassle-free and speedy recovery without any runarounds. For your home, auto, and business insurance, visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center on Marine Corps Drive in Tamuning. Don't forget to like us on Facebook or give us a call at 475-1162 or text 929-SAVE. That's 929-7283.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they'll continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $3,600 by calling Family Finance in Agutya at 475-4545, Upper Tumon at 647-5626, or in Dededo, 633-4473. Family Finance, serving the people of Guam since 1959.
All right, and back to the ball game. You know, I was singing that song to my wife the other day. She didn't know that there were words like that there was a song like that. Well, she's not, you know, her family heritage isn't from the 48 states. And so, no, she wasn't familiar with that. She wasn't familiar with the words to A Bicycle Built for Two, or Ain't She Sweet, or what was the other one? Oh, Billy Boy. Billy Boy. If you look up the lyrics to the song Billy Boy, it sounds almost like it reads almost like 100 bottles of beer on the wall. But I was, while she was, the lyrics, can she bake a cherry pie? Billy Boy, Billy Boy. And she was intrigued. She was hooked. She had me look up the lyrics and sing the whole thing to her. See if there's anything else about baking. But no, it's more about, what's she like, checking her out. Let's go back to, well, thank you. Thanks to that caller. His perspective, I'm sure, is shared by many of you. You see what's going on. You see the changes in the tourism market. And you read in the papers every day about people who are drug-addled or desperate or whatever, homeless, committing crimes, impacting our tourists, impacting our communities, our neighborhoods, our, and we see this stuff so often, we sort of kind of throw up our hands and go, well, there must be people taking care of this. Then we read about the courts basically turning them out, and they do it again. They did it down in Tumon, and then when they're let out on waiting trial, and they go do something else, and they show back up on the blotter. That's why I said it's our problem. It's a problem with our community, because we are set up to collect taxes and to field a police force. And we actually have the blessings of being an American community where we know we have access to information about new technology, and we can discuss ways that technology can make it easier to accomplish our objectives. And maybe our laws and our procedures for court are not keeping up with technology and efficiency of use of our tax money. And that's why we've got 15 people down at the legislature who work full-time. They've got full-time staff. They come into work every day. And we keep waiting for them to actually do work that will address our common problems in those ways where we have our hands on resources to put together solutions. I'm still waiting for that. And that's what we really are talking about here on Tall Tales. Before the caller, I was taking a look at this bill 46-35, Senator Moylan's bill to put financial incentives in front of people so that we can have confidential informants in the community. If that's such a good idea, then why isn't it written into criminal procedure generally? Why isn't it written into all court fines and why don't we have open up the hotline to report crimes, and why isn't that working really well? Because I know the police have a hotline to catch criminals, and you can call them if you have information. But what's the problem here? The problem is that the government can't offer these kinds of incentives. It's nonprofits that gather money to put up the incentive money, or businesses post their own bounty for the ear of the criminal that did this, that, or the other. Because our criminal justice system is set up in such a way it has to proceed carefully to protect the innocent. And how does the government set up to allow for public bounties? Because that's what Senator Moylan is suggesting, that we have a system of public bounties for people who are practicing tax evasion. That's all this is. And he's doing this, and he's even saying we'll even split the revenues with the Department of Revenue and Taxation. Why didn't he just say, like we do with the courts, or like we do with the police? The police are going to get 10% or 20% of all the fines that are assessed by the court. No, that doesn't happen. The court keeps the money, because there's no incentive by the court to have convictions. But there would be if the police were in it for, they had a financial incentive to boost their revenues, to buy new cars, buy new uniforms, buy new toys, buy new tech. If there was a financial incentive there, resources would flow towards those revenue-generating activities. And it would be a government that has financial incentives to enforce the law. You're enforcing the law, one law over another, because there's more money in enforcing that law. Oh, sorry, we don't get a portion of the fines for stopping people who speed. I'm not going to stop people who speed. I'm going to spend time doing this other thing. And that's kind of where we've gotten ourselves. And now Senator Moylan's trying to bring this up with revenue tax. We're not going to enforce those laws because we don't get any money for it. But we can go after bed and breakfast scoff laws because there's some money there. It's like, no, we're not going to find a way to house low-income people until the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development tells us how much the grant is for next year. Or no, we're not going to take care of people at the hospital until we find out how much Medicare and Medicaid are going to pay for people walking in the door with running sores. They can take their running sores outside. We're not going to have community nurses at the Department of Public Health and Social Services to do the things that public health nurses do. We're not going to appropriate money to that function for the right reasons, because we have a policy to take care of people at the public health level before they become chronic, before it becomes an emergency. No. Because we didn't get the money for that this year. And now Senator Moylan is suggesting that the Department of Revenue and Taxation, let's not enforce the law on tax evasion. Let's not do that. Let's spend another year figuring out what the procedure will be, and then writing it up. And this kind of delay gives the people who have been investing in bed and breakfast and online, Airbnb type activities, it gives them a 16% government subsidy, because they don't have to worry about paying those taxes, because the reason that they're not paying the taxes is because there's no procedure for them to pay the taxes. There isn't really an effort on the part of the government of Guam to collect taxes on this type of economic activity, business activity. It's our fault, the people of Guam, and the employees of the people of Guam. They'll go to court and say, hey, the government's not even set up to collect the taxes. What are you doing calling me in here asking me for this? If they were ready to set up if they were enforcing the law, then fine, but they're not even enforcing the law. Why would I pay taxes on this? The government's not ready. We would collect taxes if they would start prosecuting people for not paying taxes. Did you ever think of that? Senator Moylan? You want to write a law that calls into question whether the government really has enough power to enforce its taxation and policies and business privilege taxes? Giving everyone in the industry another excuse that if we don't have a law, that the law that any new type of business can't be taxed until we have a law specifically for that kind of business? Hey, my goodness. It's backwards. It's really backwards. Laws are supposed to be followed. And the enforcement of law will generate respect for the law. If we're not going to enforce the law, then there will be no respect for the law. If the law is wrong, it can be changed. But it's not a requirement on the government to make a law to fit a new type of business. If you're going into business, you're going to collect money from people to provide a good or a service, then you are conducting business. Now, is there somebody at the Attorney General's office who doesn't understand this? Or is it difficult? There's a deficiency in the government of Guam codes where it is not possible to make the case in a court. It'll get thrown out. Well, then the AG needs to bring that fact to the legislature so that we can have legislation that will allow our laws to be enforceable. We need to hear from the Department of Revenue and Taxation. Please make the following changes in the law because we're having roadblocks in enforcing the law. I don't think it should take the dedication of 5 lawyers and 2 clerks to the Department of Revenue and Taxation to figure out why it is that the Department of Revenue and Taxation is unable to collect taxes that are on the books. You know what this reminds me of? Remember when the new kinds of signs went up, and the legislature said, "Oh, we have to pass laws to regulate these new types of signs." And what happened? The DPW didn't enforce any laws on the signs. They started issuing permits because there's no law saying that you can't have a sign like this. It's a specific kind of sign. But if you read the law that was on the books at the time, it said, sign law, these are the kinds of laws that DPW can issue permits for under the building code. Yes, it did not say the new technologies, future technologies are covered under these words, within these words. But somehow, the government of Guam allowed the argument to be made that the law didn't apply to new types of signs, new technology, new materials, which was just ridiculous. We're not served. We, the public, are not well served by this type of government upholding the law. And you hear me say this stuff about government employees and directors and political leaders. I shouldn't have to be making this argument. I shouldn't have to be pointing this out. They should be pointing it out to each other at the legislature. The directors in their cabinet meetings and the chief of staff of the governor and the governor should be making these points to each other. They're not. And that's why it comes here to talk radio. And, you know, we're not helpless. At some point, we need to have our leaders act like leaders and do the jobs that they were elected to do. And for the appointees to do the jobs that they have been found qualified to do, qualified to earn, you know, upward of $70,000 each, to make things change for the better, to actually enforce the laws of Guam and enforce in the name of us, the people. Got some comments on Facebook Live from Richard Leon, going back to the time I was talking about it might have been on ethics. Guam has the GOP and Democratic Party. Liberals and other parties mean nothing here. The party chiefs don't stand for anything. Oh, is that when I was talking about liberals and conservatives? No, those are philosophical positions. But politics is a very practical matter for the incumbents and for the would-be politicians. It's very practical. How do I make a career? How do I sustain a career? How can I make a living at this? The disconnect is when we don't, as Democrats or Republicans or residents of a village or whether you call yourself a liberal or a conservative, as far as your political bent, preference, when you don't exert an influence on the person who is asking for your vote or who asked for your vote. Is it that time again? Time to take a break here. Yeah, Richard Leon continues. Ethics doesn't mean anything on Guam. Otherwise, some of these financial issues wouldn't exist. Well, ethics are always there. It's whether the laws are enforced, which reflect the ethics of the community and the form of government. GovGuam agencies don't do anything unless they get more money. Well, they are getting money. We have almost $1 billion government, $1 billion a year. And that's the question. Are we getting $1 billion worth of services every year? $1 billion of money raised locally and received in grants from the federal government. We'll be back after this break.
At Guam Regional Medical City, it is our mission to become the island's premier choice for specialty care, like cardiology, pulmonology, neurosciences, orthopedics, oncology services, and more. We aim to protect our island from heart attacks, strokes, cancer, and diabetic complications. But should you suffer from such diseases, we're ready with world-class options, both inpatient and outpatient. For more information, visit us at grmc.gu.
Hi, this is Ray Gibson from The Morning Show on 93.3 The Point. And we're celebrating our one-year anniversary this February. The Point is your news talk headquarters with top news, sports, weather, and traffic, and of course, always a little extra. We want to thank our listeners, fans, and followers for keeping us on our toes and joining us on this journey. The Ray Gibson Show Anniversary Celebration is brought to you by Take Care, Our Island, Your Health Plan.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. I'm Darrell Taggarty, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie. He'll be back in 20 days. That's the countdown, 20 days. I do hope that your Valentine's Day was everything you hoped it would be with your sweetie. And, I just hope it all went well. I hope, as I was telling the ladies on the way in to work today, that was a day intended to put a smile on your face. That's just what it's all about, nothing more. So, I do wish you. I do hope that you, took full advantage of the day. This is interesting. I wanted to talk about Guma Tranquilidad a little bit today, and I guess we have about 5 minutes here to discuss it. It's interesting. I really want to take Ray Tapasana's article that he wrote to the Guam Daily Post and put it up next to the comments of the governor and see just what's going on here. There is something going on that's important. One, that Ray Tapasana has shown some initiative to open up a possibility that actually we may... Not that we have to get off the dime on Guma Tranquilidad itself, but that he is going to he's rolled up his sleeves and he's up to his elbows in understanding just exactly where Gura is in meeting the needs of the people of Guam with respect to housing, shelter, the homeless, the elderly, and so he's expressing that. And then, procedurally, he didn't check with the governor first. And she had to slap him down publicly. Go to the folks over at Guma Tranquilidad and meet with them and assure them that they weren't going to get thrown out of their cottages. It's more than symbolism, but there's a heavy, heavy dose of symbolism here on the part of the governor and some personal sensitivity on the part of the governor to assure people that read about their homes being torn down in the newspaper. And nobody went down there. The head of the agency that oversees that particular program didn't send anybody down there and have a little meeting first and say, please don't be alarmed. No decisions are being made, but we're going to bring this up again because it's a new administration and this is going to come up again. And yes, we'll be asking each of you, about this. No, Ray went out and started talking about Guma Tranquilidad without telling the residents first. And it took the governor rerouted from wherever she was, or what she was originally planning on doing, run down there yesterday afternoon at 4 o'clock and meet with the residents. It's just the nicest time of day, at the nicest time of year. On Valentine's Day, she spent 4 o'clock down at Guma Tranquilidad. Making sure that everyone understands that no precipitous action was going to take place. But this is interesting. Interesting, because it has to be discussed, not for Guma Tranquilidad, not for the sake of programs, but for the sake of people. Because there are 3,900 households waiting for something because they're eligible for decent housing. And you've seen how many homes have been allowed to simply fall apart, that the owners have not even bothered to keep them up and rent them out. And you see them now starting to get renovated. There's lots of renovations going on. Is it because of the military buildup? Is it because in anticipation of certificates for Section 8 out of Gura? Is it because the level of income here on the island has grown to the level of a renewed interest in homes for first-time home buyers or people who want to move out of apartments and scale up? No. Or yes to all of them. Or no. Something's going on. And is it happening with the full knowledge, understanding, and participation by those in government that we pay to fulfill public policy? That's the question. I like what Ray's doing, and I like what the governor's doing. Both. Even though they, behind closed doors, are probably at each other's throats. It's needed. We need to kind of mix it up. Let's see. Don Equilani says, can we really claim to have a $1 billion economy when we have a $1.8 billion territory debt? Actually, it's $1 billion a year in budget for government services, for public services. $1 billion a year, 973 million, something like that. And we have $1.8 billion debt. But of course, we only have to pay that, carry that debt for so many years. So part of that $1 billion in services is servicing the debt on money we already spent. Well, it's just about 6 o'clock here. Thank you very much for your for your comments, for your economy. We'll be back with more on Monday. I'm Darrell Taggarty signing out here. Bob Klitzkie will be back in 20 days. I'll be back on Monday. And wishing you a very pleasant weekend all.